Good evening, good morning, wherever time that you are watching this broadcast. This is Gilbert Gordon with Impact Conversations, conversations that empowers you for action. James 2 and 17 says, faith by itself, unless it's accompanied with action, it is dead. So let's put some actions to your faith. And so today we are going to be talking about how do you start a gospel conversation. How do you start a conversation where, in the end, you will get to share your faith? You'll get to share the gospel with someone. And let's face it, having that conversation can be intimidating, it can be fearful, it can be challenging, and at the same time, rewarding, based on your approach and based on how your what how based on how your intentions are, what your intentions are. You always want to approach sharing the gospel from a place of love, from a place of humility, from a place of genuine interest. You got to have a genuine interest in, number one, the individual, a genuine interest in seeing that individual come to Christ. Um, we cannot treat it as just an exercise. We cannot treat sharing the gospel as something to check off on your list. If you go back and listen to previous episodes, I started with, you got to have love. So you got to have a genuine affection for seeing the lost come to Christ, and have an understanding that it's not about you, it's about that person establishing a relationship with Christ. So one of the first things you want to do, you want to build a connection. You want to have a connection with that individual. Um, Find out what their interests are. It might seem a little bit controversial that you have an ulterior motive. Well, the motive is to get that other person to get to know Christ. Um, God sent His Son to the world to not to condemn the world, but that the world through Him will be saved, and we have an obligation to continue to share love, to show love, share love, and share the love of Christ that brought Him to us. All right. So you want to build that connection first. You want to ask about family. Their interest, their job, what's going on with them. If you might notice something. Somebody might be limping. I say, hey, what happened to your foot? How did you hurt your foot? And you have that conversation, and just find some commonality that you can now build a relationship, have a connection with that person. Now, one of the things that, going back to that example about, somebody, limping, um, you might be in the end having to offer prayer for their healing. And that is an open door. That's a door that you can get to share the gospel. You want to, again, be a good listener. They might be going through something in their life, experiencing something in their life that they just want to talk to somebody. Okay? And just listen. They're not asking for advice. I know we would want to, kind of get them straight really right away. Um, but they're not asking for advice. They just want somebody to listen to them. And so you can just be a good listener. And they, in turn, at some point in time, later down the road, they will be able to now listen to you as you share the gospel with them. Look for common interests. Perfect example I had the other day is I saw this guy drove into work, and he had the Jamaican flag in his on his visor. And right then and there, I'm a kind of person that I'll talk to anybody for whatever reason. And as I'm talking to them, the Holy Spirit will show me something that I can use as a way to get them to hear the gospel. So I saw the flag in his visor. And of course, I'm like, hey, I'm Jamaican, so of course I'm gonna introduce myself. I'm say, hey, what's going on, man? Where you from? And do all the pleasantries, and get a talking, got his name, um, and what by the time he was getting ready to go out on the road, I said, man, I just pray that you'll have a safe day. Pray God to keep you safe. And then I just asked him, I said, you want me to pray for you for that? And he was like, man, yeah. He was so open for me to pray for his protection on the road, because a lot of times, when you drive trucks, you go over the road and some people don't make it home. And so he was very open to that. I prayed for him, and something happened to him from that prayer, because I saw him a few weeks later, and he said to me, he said, you know what? I changed my schedule because I want to start going back to church. I want to start going back to church because, God has done so much for me. I want to do back something for him in his own words. All right. But just from that, from me making that connection with him, building some kind of a trust, a rapport with him, I got to invite him to church, and he showed up, and he get to hear the gospel. So just from that, so one of the first things, you want to build connection, you want to build rapport, you want to build trust. Secondly, you want to whenever you start that conversation, you want to then transition, have some form of transition from the pleasantries, transition from the normal conversation piece into the spiritual conversation. Now, you can't rush the process. Now, if the Holy Spirit prompts you and give you the okay, then by all means you follow the leading of the Holy Spirit. But sometimes you don't want to rush it. Sometimes we get a little excited about sharing the gospel that we rush it and the timing is off. And, who knows? Because we didn't take time to listen. And we didn't take time to make that connection with that individual. And so we missed that opportunity. All right. So this week, today, tomorrow, or whenever, make that connection with someone. Ask the Lord to lead you to someone and to point out to you where they need to hear the gospel. And so start that conversation with someone. All right. Until next time, we'll go on to give you some more tips on how to start that conversation, that spiritual conversation. All right. This again has been Gilbert Gordon with another episode of Impact Conversations, conversations that empowers you for action.